What's up, and welcome back to the channel. This is the game day preview for the Minnesota Vikings versus the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are coming into this game 5-2, sitting at the top of the division, the NFC North, and the Vikings are coming to this game at a 3-4. I know that's a big disappointment, but let's dive into it. First off, before we get into any topics about this game, I want to give you guys my insight about Kevin O'Connor's press conference, and especially that one-on-one he had with Paul Allen the past couple of days. I think he had the one-on-one with Paul Allen on Tuesday, and the actual press conference where the media asked him questions was on Wednesday. I'm a little bit late to getting you my response to it, but let's dive into it. Now, first off, I want to talk about the one-on-one interview he had with Paul Allen. Now, I was really interested to seeing what Kevin O'Connor was going to say about the Carson Wentz situation, because it seems like Monday, social media, Vikings media was at a turnstile, like going crazy because of all the details that was released about Carson Wentz injury, about it being a, torn labrum and a broken shoulder socket. Like when you read the details, it sounds like it was nothing nice. And it really sounds like Carson Wentz was in a lot of pain these past couple of games. So while I wanted to dive into, the Paul Allen interview, because that was the first time Kevin O'Connell actually released something after Carson Wentz had went on IR. So I would say this though, the interview was kind of soft. I mean, it was Paul Allen, the Vikings announcer asking him questions about what's going on with the Vikings and injuries and how they react to them and the process and stuff like that. And I feel Kevin O'Connell did a great job in, giving some details that we haven't heard before. And he kind of tap danced around some of the topics too. But the one I was waiting for was the press conference on Wednesday. Now, within that press conference on Wednesday, that's the one where basically the media gets to ask him a couple of questions. And you got a couple of, heavy hitters went up there and asked him some tough questions. And one of the most interesting questions that I can, recall from that press conference was the one that Judd basically asked him something similar like, if you knew JJ McCarthy, you know, only had 1 day of practice and he missed a day, going into the Atlanta game, why didn't you just not play him? And that's something that, was on my mind for the past couple of days. But hindsight is 2020. And I just feel like as Viking fans, content creators, whoever we are out there, we got to stop having this augmented, reality to where we know what the outcome is now, but we want to change what happened before, and we never really go back to that actual moment. I just think that kind of it gets over redundant, and it's like, yeah, but they could do this, yeah, but you already know what the outcome was. I mean, McCarthy got hurt against Atlanta, and he's been out for the past couple of weeks, so it is what it is. But let's get back to the press conference. So that press conference is it's a little bit similar to the Paul Allen one-on-one interview, and Kevin O'Connell answered some questions about the Carson Wentz injury, and it was real. Like I would say, this was one of the things he wanted to get done with this interview. Well, not interview, with this press conference. Basically, letting the media and everybody know that they weren't pushing guys, coming back from injury earlier. That they had the medical staff, the trainers, and the coaching staff was working together with Carson Wentz to make sure that he was going to be okay. And they had ran the test and basically found out that it couldn't get no worse. It was just going to be a pain tolerance situation. Now, I get that. I get that. It is what it is. But after his press conference, they released the press conference with Carson Wentz, and Carson Wentz kind of echoed the same situations. So at this point, with me, I'm done with the Carson Wentz situation. Like, I feel like there's no need for us to continue to talk about it anymore. He's out for the season. We might see him on the sideline. We might see him here or there in the media, getting some treatment done, in the Viking facility. But we got to keep moving McCarthy's back. So it is what it is. I gave you guys my input on that a couple of videos ago. And I just think, like, as of right now, we can't keep harping on what happened with Carson Wentz. Do I think the Vikings handled it the wrong way? Yes. I think they should have just went ahead and maybe signed somebody in free agency to be the backup, or just went with Max Brosmer. But it is what it is, and we can't change what actually happened. So let's dive into this injury report for the Minnesota Vikings. All right. So here we go. Now, this is Thursday right now. These are the injury report for Thursday's practice. So we got CJ Ham, Jeff Okuda, and Josh Oliver with their injuries, DNPs, did not practice. So those three guys are probably not going to play. You got Jonathan Gennard, full participant, Brian O'Neill, limited, Isaiah Rogers, limited, Christian Darrisaw, DNP, JJ McCarthy, Andrew Viginko, full. So first off top, we know JJ McCarthy is going to be back for the Lions game. We're going to get into how I feel about that a little bit later in the video. But with the injuries, the one injury that stands out to me is the Christian Darrisaw, because I seem like they kind of, I don't know what's really going on with this Darrisaw injury. And by me saying that, it's like this. It's like he practiced full on Wednesday and then was a DNP on Thursday. Like, does that mean, he pushed the knee to a certain extent on Wednesday and then it swelled up and it didn't respond well? So now he's not playing on Thursday. I just, look, if Darrisaw is going to keep being in and out the lineup, in and out of practice, just put him on short-term IR for the next 4 weeks and basically go from there and let him nurse it, because all this back and forth with Darrisaw is not going to be good, man, because this offensive line can't get consistent if they got constant guys going in and out the lineup versus injuries. Now, with the Brian O'Neill situation, this is how it normally is supposed to look. He was limited, both days, and he's basically said he's a go. So let's just hope his knee responds well and he can actually have a full game, and Van Ginkel looks like he's going to, come back this game too, which is great because you're going to have Van Ginkel, Bernard, and Dallas Turner in, this game. And one thing I want to see Dallas Turner in the middle of that defense. I want to see Dallas Turner playing next to Blake Cashman. That's what I've been asking for the past couple of weeks. But now that the defense is getting a little bit healthy, I hope I can see that. So let's keep it moving. All right. So we're going to get into the offensive game plan, how I feel the Vikings offense can attack this Detroit defense and actually make it a success. First off, they got to control the clock. They got to control the clock in the line of scrimmage. And you know what I'm going to say. They have to run the ball efficiently, run the ball often, and run the ball efficiently. Now, I'm not sure what the injury report looks like for the Detroit Lions. They got a couple of guys on suspensions, and I think Kirby is not going to play this game. So, hey, maybe we can, take advantage of their secondary. Branch should be back off of suspension that game. So, which is, we want to see the Lions at their best. If the Vikings steal a game, I don't want to hear, oh, they stole this game because everybody was hurt. It's NFL. Got to keep your guys ready. But got to go back to the running game. I think the running game can open up, the passing game down the field. But Kevin O'Connell has to stay efficient with it. And if he doesn't stay efficient with it, it can be a disaster, because those long developing plays down the field, especially with McCarthy getting his third start, you're going to have to try to take it easy. And now you have Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. So it should not be no excuse on why the running game shouldn't be efficient. Why the running game shouldn't be the staple of this offense going forward, so the Vikings can actually right this ship. Now, let's get into this defense. All right, look. On offense, the Detroit Lions are monsters. I mean, I actually got Jahmyr Gibbs on my fantasy league, and it seems like they rotate every other week or who gonna go off, and with the Vikings defense consistently struggling this year, I called it. I gotta say it again. With the Vikings defense consistently struggling this year against veteran quarterbacks, capable quarterbacks, I don't know what the Vikings can do to actually slow down this offense. I would say maybe the pass rush can get home, but we haven't had a lot of sacks this year. And, hopefully that Van Ginkel can give us something that we haven't had on the outside with Dallas Turner. But we're just going to see, because I feel like Jared Goff He knows this for his defense, and he's just going to pick it apart and find the holes in the zone and just go down the field. So if I could say, if the Vikings could actually, you know, limit the opportunities down the field for the Detroit Lions and basically keep their running game honest. And what I mean by that is keep the running game basically to where they're not busting 70-yard runs on you, or, getting 5 yards a clip. This is the game where I want to see some progression with this Vikings run defense. I need to see it. And if they can't stop the run this game, they're gonna be in trouble for real. And I can actually see a breakout game, another breakout game for Jameson Williams, because our corners can't really cover man to man like that. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Now, excuse me, players to watch. Now, I'm gonna give you a player to watch on offense and a player to watch on defense. My player to watch on offense will be TJ Hawkinson. There's been a lot of talk through the media about TJ Hawkinson basically not performing to the expectation of his contract. Now, if you watch the games and you know football, you will find out that TJ Hawkinson is actually being a extra blocker on passing downs, basically chipping, defensive ends or whoever's rushing the passer and then going on his route. So that means his routes are starting later than expected. I think we're going to see a breakout game from TJ Hawkinson, because now on the outside you have Darisaw back and you have O'Neal. And if these two tackles can hold up well within this game, that will give TJ Hawkinson the opportunity to go out and run some routes and do some damage. That's who I got for offense. Now for defense, I'm gonna go with Dallas Turner. Now, why I'm saying Dallas Turner is this: Dallas Turner will be back into a non-starting role on his defense with Van Ginkel getting the start on Sunday. And with Van Ginkel getting the start this Sunday and Jonathan Gennard, you know, going through an ankle injury, I can see Dallas Turner coming in, spelling these guys and actually benefiting from a maybe tired offense, and maybe he can make his mark. Maybe he can get some pressures and basically get a couple of sacks this game. So let's go back to my keys to victory. All right. My keys to victory for the Vikings is controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. On offense, I feel the Vikings have to run the ball early and often and efficient. Early, often, and efficient. And Kevin O'Connell should not shy away from the running game if it's not getting the production that he wants early. The thing with running the ball is sometimes you might not get your production early. You might get the best production and efficiency in the third and fourth quarter once that defense has been a little bit winded. And considering that JJ McCarthy is starting his third game in the NFL, you have to find ways to make this offense simple for him. That's all I ask on the offense side of the ball. I'm not asking for Kevin O'Connell to dial up a game plan where they're going down the field, 30 plus yards. If that happens, I'm okay with it, because I still think our receivers can actually, outplay the Detroit Lions secondary. I think it still could happen, but I don't want that to be the focal front. Now, when we're talking about defense, I said it's the trenches this game. You have to keep Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery honest. You have to get to the point to where they're not getting 5 yards a pop. And you have to contain Jared Goff and make sure those underneath throws and those throws in the middle of the field are not available to him. Get to the quarterback. You got Grenard back. You got Van Ginkel back. Dallas Turner should be, ready to go to in his role. I don't care what Flores has to dial up, but he needs to get this defense going in the right direction against Detroit. So that's my keys to victory. Now, to keep it going, my closing thoughts is this. Now, with the Minnesota Vikings being 3-4 and basically bottom of the division, the Vikings have to figure out ways to right the ship for this season. I really don't feel like this season is lost. Even if they lose to Detroit Lions, they will be 3-5. It's still a lot of games to play. There are 10 games left. Now, a lot of people out there say the only bright spot with this season will be knowing what we have in McCarthy and developing him into a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. I get that, but I don't think this season is lost. I think the Vikings can hit stride. They can play teams at the right time, and they can probably muster to get a couple of games. But on the outside looking in of the coaching staff, I think this is make or break these next 10 games for this coaching staff. Yes, I'm talking about Kevin O'Connell. I'm talking about Wes Phillips. I'm talking about Josh McCown. I'm talking about Brian Flores. Because I believe if Dan Campbell puts up 40, 50 points on his defense, we're not seeing Brian Flores, on this team in the future. I'm not saying he gets fired on Monday or he gets fired sometime through the season, but yeah, he won't be back. And if this offense can't get it together and look competent, then we got to start pointing the finger at Kevin O'Connell too. So that's my closing thoughts. And, you know, thank you guys for tuning into the channel. I just wanted to come in here and give you guys a quick video of the game day preview. I'm actually going to go live with Detroit Fan Podcast. I forgot the name of them, but you've seen them on the channel before. We've been kind of doing crossovers the past couple of seasons. So I'm probably going to do a live with them maybe on Saturday afternoon or early Sunday morning. So look out for that. And for all the new subscribers, thank you. I appreciate it. And y'all already know how I end it. Let's go, baby.